In this video, I'm gonna do a battery life test of the Mini 2 and the Air 2S. So let's jump right into it. Now I will say doing this test was very surprising, so make sure you watch to the end because I did 4 rounds of testing for each of these drones and it really wasn't what I expected. Hope you learn a thing or two about battery life and flying in different conditions. You may be asking yourself, why did I compare the Mini 2 with the Air 2S? Well, they're DJI's 2st new drones and the battery lifetime is also the same. So it says up to 31 minutes of flight time in ideal conditions. Obviously, we're never gonna get 31 minutes of flight time because, it's never ideal in flying at a constant rate. There's always weather, wind, other factors, human factor of how you fly it, humidity, etc., that affect the flight time. And I'll talk about that more in this video. So round number 1 is hovering the drone at about eyesight level. I did this at sunrise because there was low humidity. There's basically no wind, especially that low to the ground. So to make it fair, I raised both drones at the same time. As soon as I started the propellers, I started this little stopwatch right here, and then I raised them up to eye level. And that was pretty much it. I used my phone and a tablet. I didn't have any other device, so that's why I used this little stopwatch right here. And after about 10 to 15 minutes, the sun started coming out. So most of this was done before the actual sunrise, just before sunrise. So you had very low humidity. It was probably about 65 to 70 degrees. Now the reason I talk about humidity is because the more humid the air, the more difficult it is for the drone to fly. So it'll cut down on your battery life. Also, the higher up it is, that will also cut down on your battery life. So that's why I kept them hovering at a very low altitude, and I flew them when the humidity is low. Now obviously it gets hot out, so I wanted to do it before sunrise. So about 10-15 minutes into round number 1, the sun started coming out. Now one thing to note with round number 1 and round number 2, I had charged my batteries fully a couple days before. And one thing I noticed with these batteries is if you charge them a couple days before, I don't have 100% battery life, okay? It starts draining a little. You gotta charge it like the night before you fly or the day of that you fly to get the most of it. At least that's been my experience. So if you wait a couple days, it might drain down to like 97%, 99%, something like this. Mine were about 96, 97% when I took off. So round number 1 and round number 2, you might wanna add 30 to 60 seconds onto the final result. I'm just letting you know now when I took off, it was about 96, 97%, but I wanted to continue on with the test. So round 3 and round 4, I charged the batteries the same day of, so I had 100% battery life. So with that said, DJI on the website, it says both of these drones hover to 30 minutes in ideal conditions. That was not what I got, okay? Maybe I didn't have ideal conditions, but I thought it'd be a lot better than the results I got. So the results I got were right here. As you can see, 24 minutes and 28 seconds hovering to 10% battery life with the Mini 2, 23 minutes and 50 seconds hovering to 10% battery life with the Air 2S. Now I took it all the way down to 10% battery life, which is something you should never do. This is really bad for the batteries. If you keep doing this, you're really gonna damage the battery cells. I did this for round number 1, round number 2, and round number 3, just for this test. But don't do this in real life. In real life, when you're flying, you want to land the drone when it's at 25% battery life or higher, because if you don't, you could really damage the battery cells. You also don't want to leave the battery below 25%. I would say below 30% when the battery is not in use, because this is also not good for the battery. So I know I might be going off on a side tangent here, but this is really important. Store your batteries between 30 to 50%, especially when not using, to get the most longevity out of them. So yeah, DJI said 30 minutes of hovering time, and even after I pushed it to 10% battery life, only 23 minutes and 50 seconds for the Air 2S, which is supposed to be comparable with the Mavic 2 Pro. I know my Mavic 2 Pro can do a lot better than that. I would say the Mavic 2 Pro would do 27, 28 minutes, something like this. So I was really disappointed with the Air 2S. Now, surprisingly, the smaller, cheaper Mini 2 did better than the Air 2S. That was very shocking for me. I know they both said they had the same battery life, but I thought because of this much bigger, more powerful battery with the Air 2S, it would give me longer hovering time. So even pushing it down to 10%, which you would never do, we'll call that ideal conditions, it's still about 6 minutes lower than what DJI says on the website. So to me, that's kind of false advertising. I know this wasn't ideal conditions, but still, I thought we'd do at least 25 minutes or more. So I waited an hour for round number 2 and did the same exact thing. So now the sun is out, it's 75 degrees and humid, and I got very similar results as round number 1. So the Mini 2 got 23 minutes and 58 seconds, hovering to 10% battery life, and the Air 2S got 23 minutes and 39 seconds, hovering to 10% battery life. So not too much difference. It was still at the same altitude, still about 6 feet up in the air hovering. And because the temperature was warmer and there was more humidity, it cut the battery life from 11 to 30 seconds. Now, obviously, these are different batteries, different times, but pretty much the situation is almost exactly the same. The only thing that's different is the humidity and temperature. So remember, the warmer it is, the more humid it is, the higher up or the higher altitude you fly, and the more wind out there is, those all decrease the amount of battery life. But because the wind hadn't changed, it was only the temperature and humidity that affected the battery life here. And again, this was a real world test, and I wasn't really too pleased with this. All right, so round number 3, I decided to take it up and actually start flying. Rather than just hovering, we need a real world test, okay? You're not just gonna take out your drone and hover for 20 minutes, okay? You actually wanna fly it. So what I did was I raised my drone up to 250 feet in the air, and I flew at a constant rate of 20 miles per hour. Now, it wasn't perfect. I was around 250, sometimes a foot or two above or below. And same thing with flying. I would fly as far as I could go, and then when the signal was getting low, I just turn the drone around and fly the other way and go back. Okay, so I went back and forth with myself being in the middle, try to go both to the left and to the right side of myself, and fly at that constant speed of 20 miles per hour. Now the weather was the same. It was 75 degrees and humid, and these were the results that I got. So the Mini 2 flew for 22 minutes and 53 seconds, flying at 200 feet at 20 miles per hour to 10% battery life, and the Air 2S flew for 22 minutes and 33 seconds, flying at 200 feet at 20 miles per hour to 10% battery life. So we'll be generous and round that up to 23 minutes, but 23 minutes of flight time and draining the battery all the way down to 10%, which we never do in real life, is still pretty bad. 23 minutes of flight time. And I was flying at a constant speed. I wasn't pushing it. All right, there was very little wind. The wind was 10 miles per hour, gusting to 18 miles per hour. So really, that's not too fast. It's really normal conditions that you'd fly in. I was not happy with that because you're never gonna fly to 10% battery life. So realistically, it's probably gonna be 21 minutes. 21 minutes of flight time. It's really not that good. Really not satisfied with these results. But let's do one more round to give DJI a fair shot at what they advertise. So on DJI's website, it says in ideal conditions is flying at 10.5 miles per hour at a constant speed. That's what I'm gonna do for round number 4. Now I'm gonna take it up to 250 feet for round number 4 because that's not super high where it gets really windy. But at the same time, I'm not gonna fly at 50 feet because most people fly higher up in the air. That's the whole point of having a drone. So I think 250 feet is a fair altitude for this test. So for round number 4, I'm gonna do the same thing, fly at 250 feet, only I'm gonna fly it at a constant speed of 10.5 miles per hour. And to make the conditions more ideal, I'm gonna take off when it's 55 degrees out, right at sunrise, nice and early. The wind is only 6 miles per hour, gusting to 13 miles per hour at 250 feet. So the wind shouldn't be too much of a factor, and neither should the humidity or the temperature. And also the speed, because I'm flying it slower at 10.5, that should also give us more flight time. And keep in mind, round number 3 and round number 4, the battery life was at a perfect 100% at takeoff. But for round number 4, I also changed one more thing. Instead of landing the battery at 10% battery life, I landed it at 25% battery life, which is what you do in the real world, okay? You're not gonna drain it all the way down to 10%. You're gonna land it at 25%. So this is the most real world test, flying in ideal conditions. Now here are the results for round number 4, which were very, very shocking. I could not believe this. All right, so the Mini 2 flew for 21 minutes and 20 seconds, flying at 250 feet at 10.5 miles per hour to 25% battery life. The Air 2S flew at 21 minutes, 55 seconds, flying at 250 feet at 10.5 miles per hour to 25% battery life. All right, so round number 4 was the only round where the Air 2S beat the Mini 2, and only barely. But realistically, you're only gonna get 21 minutes of flight time. I was flying in ideal conditions, flying at a constant rate, and there was no humidity, it was low temperature, and there wasn't much wind out. So realistically, you're only gonna get 18 to 21 minutes of battery life for these 2 drones. And to me, that's really disappointing. Maybe that's one reason why DJI made the same battery for the Air 2S and the Air 2, because they knew the batteries weren't that great. So people could, if they already had the Air 2, they could use those batteries for the Air 2S. And I know I've had to use my batteries. So now I have 6 batteries for the Air 2S, using my 3 batteries that came with the combo, and then my 3 batteries from the Mavic Air 2. That gives me enough flight time, but it's still kind of annoying having to fly. You're getting the shot, and just when you're getting into it, you gotta land and you gotta change the batteries. So I'm glad I did this test, but I'm kind of disappointed. I had the hunch from flying the Air 2S, especially when it was windy out, I'm getting less than 20 minutes of flight time, probably more like 17, 18 minutes of flight time, which is not that great. But what do you think? Leave your comments below. Also, I'd love to hear your experience. If maybe you've been flying in a different way or do something different that you're getting more battery life than I'm getting. But I hope you enjoyed this test. I know I haven't been uploading as much lately. That's because I've been working on my Part 107 course and my DJI Drone Pro course. So if you want to check that out, click on the links below. Also in the links below is my 30-minute free DJI drone training if you want to step up your skills, especially if you're new to DJI drones. You're going to learn a ton of things. I answer a ton of questions in that training. Thanks for watching. I'm Brett Garamella, the Drone Pilot Pro, and remember, fly like a pro.